Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast, a place where we focus on the business side of art to help you attract more customers, increase profits, and ultimately live a life of creativity and financial freedom. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and this week's episode is all about deposits. To take a deposit or not to take a deposit? That is the question. And I'll be talking about exact dollar amounts that I've used and I know other artists use to take a deposit, or the ones that do, how much of a down payment people accept or require, whether it's a percentage or just a set fee. I'll share all the different ways that I've taken deposits for canvas and mural projects in the past 10 years running my own art business so that you can decide which method is right for your unique art business. And this question was prompted because I have started this thing recently on Instagram every Monday. I'm home with my son every Monday, and so I have some time on my hands to be on my phone sometime, but I am not able to paint on Mondays at all. I have learned that my son is a very active kid and needs entertained all the time. But as I'm walking around with him, I can easily send a quick audio message to Artist Academy people or students and just random people who message me online, or talk on the phone to customers and about future projects and stuff like that. So that's what my Mondays entail now. It's an office day mixed with the little mother-son time and juggling, but it's fun. And so I've decided to do like Art Advice Mondays. And so if you message me on Monday to my direct message on Instagram, or you reply to my story asking a question, when I prompt it, then I will answer you really quickly. And a couple of questions were brought up about deposits, mostly because artists were like, I'm doing all of this work for free sometimes because people just cancel on me. Like, how do you keep from doing so much work for free? And my answer was, well, you take a deposit. And it helps to weed out the people who are really interested and the people who aren't. And I want to preface this with, in the beginning of my art business, the first couple years, really, I did not take a deposit. And just to be real, that partially was from sheer laziness. I don't want to collect multiple payments from a customer. I don't want to send out a contract. I just want to think that people, if they say they're going to do something, they will do it. And generally, that is the case. 90% of the time, that is the case with people that I work with, especially nowadays. But in the beginning, I ended up doing some sketches for people that were like, just changed their minds. Or so I guess they weren't all that serious. And it's funny because in the beginning, I just got so tired of it. And I very much bootstrapped to the thinking in the early days of, okay, if I impress someone with a sketch or a mock-up, they will pay me for that work. If they see it and they're like, they fall in love with it, they'll pay anything for it. And that advice was given to me by an older artist, a more experienced artist, and I took it to heart. And they're like, if you really want a job, do an amazing sketch and then they'll hire you and they'll pay top dollar for it. I said, okay, great. So that's the strategy that I used. And I ended up working for free or sketching for free a lot of the time. And to the point where finally I was like, okay, I'm taking a $100 deposit or a $500 deposit. I think I started with like $150 or $200 just to tell people, if you want to work together, you got to pay for it. And it's so funny. So many people were like, okay, well, I'll get back to you when I really know. I was like, oh, okay, so you're going to have me sketch, but you don't really know that you're ready yet, but you were going to have me do this mock-up, but okay. Anyway, and so now I take a $500 deposit before I start sketching anything. And I'm not going to say that that amount won't go up in the future as projects get bigger. But right now, and for the last couple years, really, it's been $500. So say someone comes and they want to work with me, say, hey, we have an idea for what we want to do. We just need to see it. I can't visualize it. Can you help me? I say, yes, of course, I'd love to. I give them a roundabout price, say, okay, from what I understand right now, your project is probably going to cost somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000. That's probably where it'll land. And it really just depends on how much detail we put in there and all the things. And so that just gives them a roundabout answer. And if they say yes to that, like, okay, that sounds great. And then ideally I'd break out a contract, which I usually don't. It drives my husband insane, but I'll try to be better. But I just kind of explain everything in email. Like, look, I'm going to do one revision for you or sometimes two. And so let's really discuss and let's get the idea down that you want. Tell me what you don't want too. I really emphasize that. If you see photos of things that you love, send them to me. But if you see photos of things that you hate, send those to me too, because that helps me really understand what I should not put in there. I had one customer, I was doing a mock-up for her, and she said she wanted pink and dark pink and purple hues, but she does not want red. She hates red, but she likes pink and purple and all the things. I was like, okay. And it's funny because if somebody wanted a really colorful mural, mostly around pink, I probably would have put some red in there. But she very specifically was like, absolutely none. I was like, okay, great. And it helps to eliminate it. So I'll do a deposit, typically $500. Mostly people pay them via Venmo because Venmo is free at the moment if you have an individual account. If you have a business account, I believe it charges you, so don't do that. Or I'll have them send a check if they don't have Venmo. So they'll send a check via the mail, snail mail, and I'll get it and I'll email them, say, thank you so much. I just got it. I'll start on it right now. And we get started. I will say my laziness still creeps up every once in a while. A couple weeks ago, I had a customer reach out. He was actually a previous customer who I had painted a logo for probably about 2 years ago or so. And so I knew him and I was like, okay, this guy is legit. He was opening up a new location and he wanted me to do some work for him. I was so excited about it because we FaceTimed. He showed me around his location because it was on a Monday and I was home with my son. And I didn't want to drive all the way to his thing. And so he FaceTimed me, showed me around, said, we want a mural here, here, and here. I'd be like, great. Each mural is probably going to come between $3,000 and $5,000. Like 5 will be on the high end, 3 will be on the more basic end. But he's like, okay, sounds great. We're so excited for your work. We follow you. Help us bring this vision to life. I was like, great. So excited. I did not take a deposit. And I was like, I know this guy. He's excited. He wants to work with me only. Like, he's not taking multiple bids. Like, he's paid me before on time. It'll be great. So I did 3 different mock-ups. Took about an entire day's worth. Like, I spread it out into a couple days, but about 8 hours worth. And he goes, oh, I just met with my builder. We're over budget. We're going to put this on the back burner, but we want like a couple letters painted over here. So like the equivalent of less than $1,000 worth of work. Basically, I was like, oh, okay. And I'm just like laughing at myself because I broke my own rule. I think eventually he will probably hire me to do those murals that I sketched up for him eventually. And I've gone back and forth of like, hey, by the way, you didn't pay your deposit. You need to pay that. And I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm very nonchalant about my business nowadays. Like, if I think it'll happen and he'll eventually pay me for something, I'm just going to go with it. But I'm like, man, I just did all of that and I should have, whatever. It's fine. I don't know. I might go back to him and be like, so where are we at now? And let's pay that deposit. And then before we continue and to actually set a date. So that's probably what I'll have to have Tim do. I'll just, hey, pay the deposit at least to set the date. That way you're not going to cancel on me again because we can't do that. But at the time right now, I really don't care. I'm not exactly on like a strict budget or wanting a lot of work. I was just going to do it because his location was opening soon. So I was like, okay. Anyway, in the beginning, though, I remember our local mall reached out and I was so excited to paint in the mall, like a really high traffic place. I had been there multiple times. People are going to see my work. Yes, so excited about this. They reached out. They said they didn't know what they wanted. And we walked through the mall and there's a couple spots here and there that needed some kind of photo op, which was the thing I was doing in the beginning. And so excited. Went home, made a bunch of mock-ups, sent it to them. They're like, no, we don't know. Oh, by the way, we don't own that wall. Somebody else does, so we can't use that wall. So the whole mock-up that I had made for that one specific wall, scrapped. I was like, okay. And so I wanted to work with them so bad that I just kept sending ideas and getting feedback and sending more ideas, and nothing ever happened. And I was so sad about it. Nothing still to this day. And there's no art there at all. So it's not like they'd hired somebody else to do it. They just didn't end up going through with it, which is fine. But so I've been there is what I'm saying. I have been there and I've been really scrappy in order to get jobs. And a lot of the times it's worked. I've done a lot of sketches and a lot of people have like gone through and we've done the project and it was flawless and it was great. But then there are times where I've done work. And I think that's just what you have to do in the beginning, being scrappy and doing what you need to do in order to get the job. But nowadays, don't waste my time because I don't have a whole lot of it anymore. And I just want to make sure that people are serious, and having a deposit is the way you make sure somebody is serious about it. Although I did just apply for a mural festival and they require that artists submit something, and I did it without getting, a deposit up front because that's what they wanted. It was an artist call and I was pretty sure I was going to get it. So that's really the only time that I'll do a mock-up nowadays. If I'm pretty dang sure that I'm going to get this, I would be very surprised if I didn't. Then I'll go ahead and put in a little bit of effort and just to seal the deal. This topic came up inside of the Artist Academy Facebook group about somebody wanting multiple bids for one of our Artist Academy members and asking them to, submit your ideas and then we'll choose which artist we want to work with. And she was asking, she's like, has anybody else come across this that they don't want to pay my deposit? What's going on? And I was raised my hand. I'm like, yep, I've been in your shoes multiple times. It's okay. It's rare, but sometimes people will want bids from multiple different artists and they don't want to pay for them. And then they'll choose which one is the best. I, again, try to avoid that as much as possible, but I had that happen a couple years ago. This company in Branson wanted it, and I could tell by working with him or just by talking to him that he didn't know what he wanted. He had absolutely no clue, and this was going to take a lot of work in order to nail down an idea. So I held my ground. I said, look, this is a $10,000 project. That's probably about what you're going to pay. And I am not going to do sketches for free. I understand that in the past you've done this, but if you want to work with me, you're going to have to do this. And he paid my $500 deposit. We went back and forth with sketches. Really, I did more than $500 worth of work trying to figure out what he wanted. In the end, I couldn't figure out a design that he wanted. I did not refund his deposit. And there's still nothing there because he is indecisive and he couldn't figure out what he wanted. And I said, so whenever I tell customers this, I'm like, you can be as picky as you want. We can go back and forth as much as you want, but it's going to cost you. So figure it out and I will help you, but I cannot go into your brain and make you happy. You have to do that. So just share with me how I can help you. Help me help you. And there's been a couple of times I've worked with companies like architects and they want to go back and forth with me and really refine the design down to, I don't know, you start off with one idea and then they go a whole new direction and then they kind of go back to that idea and then they circle around and they do this and that and they go back and forth multiple times. And I've just come to understand that that's their business model. Think about an architect. You do a design for a building, it gets changed over and over and over again. And that's how they make it perfect. So that's how they want to deal with me. And so just knowing that up front and putting yourself in their shoes and explaining, hey, okay, yeah, we can totally do that, but I bill, $100 an hour for sketches. So it takes me a couple hours to create a new one or an hour to update it. So just know it's going to be adding up. I'll ask them if we need to put a cap on it, like $1,000 or whatnot, I can tell you when we're getting close. That way we can really, really decide, do we want to keep going back and forth? And it's really just about open communication on every part of it. And don't be afraid to say, this is my time. You can't expect me to work for free. Although I want to do this for you, you need to pay for it. And then there's some people, recently I just did a mural for somebody and she showed me what she liked, what she didn't like. We also have very similar taste, which I think is the magic sweet spot. She likes pink. She likes fun colors and almost like a Barbie-esque mural is what she wanted. I was like, girl, I got you. I knew exactly what to do. And I gave her the first thing and she loved it. There was no redos, nothing. Great. Those are dream customers. And I'd say that happens 50% of the time, or they come back with just a really small edit, which is fun. And oftentimes their suggestions do make it even better. So I try to keep an open mind of okay, this is how my brain saw it. Now you want to, tweak it a little bit. And then I do that. I'm like, oh yeah, that does add to it. So try to keep an open mind when somebody wants a redo or whatnot, because we are in the commission-based mural industry. We're commercial artists. And so that happened. Another question that comes up is if somebody pays a deposit and they ended up canceling, do they get their deposit back? And my stance on that is I actually don't even take a deposit unless somebody needs me to do sketch work. I will put you on my schedule, and if you cancel, that's okay with me personally, because it's pretty rare that people cancel on me. But I know other artists that if they don't take a deposit in whatever area, industry they're in, cancellations happen pretty frequently. And so that's just part of their business model. They will not put you on the calendar unless you pay your deposit. And I think that can be a little strange, just because what if you don't do a sketch and somebody says, hey, I want to get on your calendar for next month. You put them there, they pay a $100 deposit. And then the week before, they're like, so sorry, I have to cancel this. Can I get my deposit back? And if I've done no work at all, I say, no big deal. Yes, I will give you your deposit back. But nowadays, like I said, I don't take a deposit unless I have to do work. So I don't have to refund them. They just cancel. And it's no big deal because I have people that I can move up in my schedule. And so one person cancels, that's fine. There's nothing off my back in that way. And my thought process in that is, if you've done no work, why should someone pay you $500 to do no work? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, yes, you have a free day, and if you need that money in that free day, but our schedules are flexible. Like, it doesn't matter. You can do something else. You can go home and paint a canvas and sell prints of it. We can make our own money, or you can go home and get caught up on sketches that we all know and we all need to do. Like, nothing is set in stone. So, I mean, people have argued with me about this before, and that is my stance, and I'm sticking to it. Like, if you've done no work and somebody, because put yourself in their shoes, think about this, like, put themselves in their shoes. Something probably happened to where they're like, oh, I can't afford this right now, or this would be really inconvenient to do right now, or I just need to postpone this until next year, whatever. Shit happens. Like, life happens. And I think the more chill we are, the better, because all the time I have people that I put on my calendar tentatively or put them on there, and then they're like, hey, we just, like, especially if you're working with a committee, that's a huge thing. And so if they are like, hey, we can't decide what we want, like, this is just not a good time, like, we need to focus on this other project. And that situation has happened to me multiple times. They say, sorry, we can't do this right now, we need to focus on this other project. And I'm like, great, let me know whenever you're ready for me. Because if I pressure them and I'm like, no, you pay a deposit, we need to do this now, I need this money, or whatever, it's just not going to be as smooth as if it would be as if they were really, truly ready for it. So I don't push it. And I don't think we all should either, because artists have a reputation for being hard to work with. And I would love to combat that and change that and make us easy to work with. And I think a reason that is because we have a creative brain, and just in general, people don't put themselves in other people's shoes. And it's just, that's what happens when you deal with other people too, just not understanding where they're coming from. That's what I have to say about a deposit. It's pretty simple. I know other artists take 20% down and then 50% before they start, and then you pay the rest after it's done. For big projects, I will do that. I'll say, hey, basically projects over $10,000, mostly because that'll take me a bit longer. And I'll say, hey, I need 50% down and then 50% after it's complete and you love it. And really saying that little bit, 50% or the rest after it's complete and you love it, quote, they love that, because they're like, oh, okay, she's going to make sure I'm happy with this. Like, it just gives them a little bit of, oh, great, she's going to want to get paid, so she wants to make me happy anyway. And I haven't gotten bit by that. So yeah, that's how I do it. But you can decide whatever you want to do in your own art business. The fun part about this is the freedom that comes with being an artist, and you get to make it up. You get to make all of it up. You get to make up your business name, your LLC. That's so crazy to me that I literally made this up, and now people are writing checks to it or writing deposits to it in the amount that I'm telling them to. Like, I'm making this up. Do they not know that? It's a weird feeling, but you decide what you want, and you can always change it. If you decide you would take 20% down and then later you're like, no, I want 50% down. Like, you can do that. It doesn't matter. We find what works for you, whatever's easiest, and do that. Okay, that's all I have for today. I'll see you next week with an interview, and then we'll continue more of the talks on how to work smarter, not harder type thing. This is the year of trying to work less and with less headaches and make more money. And yeah, I'm going to share it all with you. Okay. If you've enjoyed this podcast episode, can you please share it on Instagram and tag me? I would absolutely love that. Or share it on Facebook, or I don't know, share it in some way so I know people are actually listening. And if you actually liked this, if you found any of it interesting, then please share it and I will reshare it, and I appreciate you. So, okay. All right, that's it. See you next week.